we actually do have some guests this evening, and that's wonderful. Folks, if you're just joining, you're probably on mute. If you'd like to unmute and talk with the team, you're welcome to. It seems like we've got a little, an intimate gathering today, at least the outset, and the door opening. So, you know, don't be shy. Most of the people here right now are on the team, and we've been gabbing for, well, half an hour and the better part of 6 years. But yeah, don't be shy. We're all here to just have some fun. So if you've just joined, feel free to unmute yourself and speak up, say howdy, tell us where you're from, what you're doing. Casual. We'd offer you drinks, but it's tough to email those. So
yeah. Virtual drinks.
Yes, yes. John, you want to say hi as well?
I will. Hey guys, it's good to see that you can all pop along to our first virtual meetup. I think it's almost timely given the current situation globally. It's one of those strange things that all happen. So welcome aboard. Welcome. No pushing, shoving to the treats table. But as Tech was saying, feel free to speak up. We're a pretty friendly bunch for the most part. Yeah, if you would like to have a quick introduction or you want to talk to one of us, that's, you know, here's a good opportunity to jump in while there's no crowds.
Well, there's no crowds. I was expecting a virtual room with a couple of little clusters of folks, you know, awkwardly talking to each other. It's how these meetups tend to go in person. But
well, I got 2 screens going here, Jay. I was expecting to have that completely full.
2 screens. I've got 2 computers, at least, and more if you check the background here. my Reddcoin covered work machine. Anyway, sort that out. There we go. Reddcoin. It's the only apparel that I own presently that says Reddcoin. Guess I'll have to fix that. Yep. All right. So I guess we're just all kind of hanging out here.
I'll kick off. Andrew is the first guy that joins. Yeah, Andrew. So, where are you from? I think I'm gathering you from the epicenter continent.
I live in Palm Springs, California.
Nice.
Beautiful weather here. It's a gorgeous day. It's 3:00 p.m. in the afternoon, and I've already done my hiking in the city. The streets are empty, and it's kind of strange, surreal.
I think everybody's got the same situation. It's I don't live in the city. I actually live at almost a rural retreat. But when you go to town, it's empty. Unless you go to the mall, of course, to get your groceries when everybody's attacking each other. But that's a different zombie apocalypse situation.
Well, when I did my city walk this morning, as I come to a lighted intersection and the light is red for me to cross, I disregard. There's no traffic, so I just have full privilege of the intersection.
It's amazing. It's there's going to be a lot of stories. I think you know, as this year pans out, a lot of interesting stories. I think we're still very much at the front edge. There's a lot of shits that are going to take part in the next 6 or 8 months.
Definitely. I think things are going to change quite a bit. Even as we get through this stuff, people are working remotely and jobs are changing. It'll be interesting. I think Reddcoin's definitely got a place there, though.
Oh, absolutely. I think, you know, we were chatting about this the other day. I think it's kind of put this world's focus on, you know, how do people now work going forward? You know, will we go back to working in offices as much as we did prior to, you know, working remotely? You know, where I live, there's usually quite a distance to get to office and things. You know, you want to work in the city from where I live, that's a 2-hour train ride. So working remotely is a bonus, and I think we're going to see, at least on our part, there's an expectation we're going to see more of that moving forward than previously thought.
Oh,
the other thing that we've seen also from the, you know, from a government point of view is the adaptation. You know, we have this really hard, you know, very fixated sort of line on, you know, how the economy should go or how the jobs should go, creation, how we should support industry was very different about 4 weeks ago. And since we shut down our country and locked borders and things, the way the government has acted and helped out, at least at the individual level, the person level, has been phenomenal. It's almost a precursor to discussions on universal wages and things like that, and even government assistance and handouts, where it was quite a derogatory term to be. If you're on government handouts, you were really at the lowest level of the social structure almost, apart from being homeless or destitute. Now, you've got millions of people lining up for assistance because there is no income. So, as I say, I think this year is going to be quite interesting to see how different governments, different countries handle looking after their citizens moving forward. Whether you come from a first world or third world country, it's going to be some challenges ahead. And you're right. I think Redcoin's got a place in that, I believe, and cryptocurrency as a whole, I think, has got an even bigger part to play. Particularly, we're talking about cashless transactions and touchless transactions. That's probably the more key thing here. We might start to see our role in this environment ramp up. That's what kind of excites me even more. It's like, as much as trying to turn a positive out of a negative. That's where I think a lot of teams see themselves. This is the moment, the time, what we're all hoping would have without the pandemic, obviously, but. Sometimes you need a crisis to evolve, right? You look at various events throughout the last 100 years. Most times, innovation comes at a cost, comes at a human cost. Normally, that's usually a war or some sort of social unrest, or something impact that things can move, generally move forward, sometimes backwards. But I guess that's kind of the here and now. If you go back and look at Satoshi's paper and things like that, what was that 10, 11 years ago, there's kind of a little hint of that in there. But who could, I certainly couldn't, 6 months ago, who could have envisaged we'll be having this type of discussion in this context?
That is absolutely true. I mean, the concept of being locked down on a global scale and everybody, just huge swaths of industry going idle. That's up until a month ago, that was science fiction movie status. And yeah,
absolutely.
I find it really interesting that at the same time that this is happening and the financial implications, that not just the US government, but pretty much all the central banks printing money, trying to spur, what they can and save their citizens. And there are alternatives out there like ourselves and similar, interest bearing and sort of digital assets like that, we are, as you said, we're primed to step into that space. And, as we work out our problems and people get more comfortable with it, this really is the beginning of that wave of, we've talked about adoption. It's sad to say that something like this has to happen to spur that, as you said, but, it is truly an exciting time to be in this industry. Well, in any industry, I would say.
If you've got a job, it's exciting.
Yeah.
Actually, that is kind of a weird thing, It's, watch the news here and seeing people, companies just, okay, we're going to lay off 80,000 people, 100,000 people, from some of the bigger international companies. It's like, holy shit! And I sit here and go, well, I'm still working.
It's true. Yeah, there really hasn't. Well. There hasn't been much disruption to our work because, like I keep joking, we've been social distancing for years.
Yeah.
And I mean, honestly, for me, I was trying to explain to a friend of mine who's been commuting back and forth from upstate New York to Manhattan for years. And his routine is get on a train, waste some time, walk a couple of blocks, get in the office, do some work, get on another train. And he's in a new world. He's working from home. They've delivered monitors and set him up, and he doesn't know what to do with all the free time. That's what people are saying. What do I do at the time I was going to work? Well, I don't know, work. Stop early.
Yeah, I tried that for a couple of years. The commuting from home to a city office. That was a 2-hour each way. So 4 hours of your life on a poor internet connection, or
Yep.
full of train full of people you barely know or don't know. It's there's definitely better stuff out there. So I mean, I've worked from home on and off, or majority on, for the last 20 odd years, even before the crypto environment. And my life was either working from home, crazy hours, or on a plane, on some sort of public transport internationally for the other 80% of my time. And yeah, sitting at home, looking out the window, beautiful sunny day. It's a hard gig.
No, I commuted into Manhattan too for a while from where I'm at in Jersey, and on a good day in rush hour, it'd be an hour and a half. On a good day, one snowstorm we had turned it into, I think, a 3.5 hour trip, and it was Lord of the Flies by the end of that. People looking to just jump out of the bus and run home, and yeah, I think a lot of people are going to get a lot of time back in their lives, which is, I guess, fantastic. I'm personally trying to inspire myself to get on some of those Coursera sites and do some learning on the programming side of things. It's ambitious, but we'll see.
I'll push you very hard for that.
I know. Well, if I can find the right course, and clearly I've got some time now. It's one of those things. It's like the piano, the keyboard sitting downstairs. I've told myself for years, you got the book, you got the keyboard, you can learn.
Yeah.
Still can't play piano.
You just need the family who's. Sorry, I'm talking over someone.
I was going to say, I think it's going to make a really big wave of people that weren't using online sources and stuff before. Even little things like ordering your groceries and then going to pick them up. I think it's going to explode in a lot of variety of areas.
Oh yeah, absolutely. And I think all these businesses pivoting to how they can work in that model. The one that I got very impressed with, and I haven't really had a chance to talk about it. Ruby Tuesday is a fairly large chain here in the U.S. Most of you guys know that. They may not be in Australia, but they're, burgers and pub food and, nice kind of greasy burgers and steaks. Well, nobody's going out for dinner. They've turned their supply chain towards a pantry function, and they basically are advertising, if you need butter, eggs, milk, greens, go on our website, order it. We're in, I don't know if they're delivering or if it's kind of drive past mode and, pick it up at the side door, but they're doing that. And it's a need right now because our grocery stores are, people are crazy. They're overwhelmed and stocking up on everything they can, even though it's going to spoil. Companies like that, restaurants and food services that are stepping into that gap, not only are they going to be, you get the positive for helping people out, but that's a new model, you know?
We're seeing the same here. It's the people have to rethink. If you're going to survive, you got to rethink and be adaptable. I guess I was going to say flexible. It's not about being flexible. You got to be able to adapt.
There's a lot of people out there that are paranoid and freaked out just by the thought of anything they touch, they could potentially come down with the sickness. It's kind of funny. I was at the store the other day. I was picking up some supplies, and I ended up walking up to the counter, and the woman at the counter saying, I want to pay for my stuff, but I don't want to touch the pen pad. Is there any way you can, give me a glove or something to be able to use the machine to swipe my card? And the lady was like, no, you can punch it in yourself. And she's like, well, I'm not paying unless I can have a way to not touch this. I don't want to touch it because so many people have done it. Or you can clean it first, then I can use it. And it's just opening my eyes to how much we need to have something available to where we can just have payments without needing a debit card, without needing to punch in a PIN code. It goes directly at what we're facing right now in this, day-by-day crisis that this world's facing. So it's definitely an eye-opener. It's really cool to see that the tech's evolving and moving with this whole thing that's happening right now. So,
yep. And it it is very nicely timed for us too, because as we're able to get a little funding behind us to pay for some of these kind of third-party services, what you just described, we're seeing all over the place, and that tech exists. That NFC, you know, near field communications, swipe your thing near the, you know, and don't touch anything. That exists. People just don't know. But if you can embed that into a crypto wallet, a Bitcoin wallet, even you know, Apple Pay, that stuff, and get people in that mindset of, I don't have to type in a PIN, I don't have to touch the thing. It really does lead directly back to what we're doing, which I think is awesome. And it's, you know, you're being forced into it. It's not a matter of, should I use this technology? Should I not? It's life-threatening if you don't.
Yeah, people want to use it. That's the cool part.
Yeah.
If somebody had this available that they know about it and they could use it, they would jump on board with having this because it's, you know, directly impacting their life.
Yep.
So it's pretty cool though to see that, you know, how the world's turning this into you know, positive, and we're moving things forward. There's a lot of different tech and a lot of things that people are building because of what's happening. And it's really funny to me that when something tragic or there's a tragedy that happens, you know, you always see great innovation happen afterwards. You know, it's just, I guess it's a shame that you can't see that innovation before something like this happens, but who's going to plan for the worst a lot of the times, you know? So, but yeah, it's going to be interesting to see how this happens and how this evolves over the next couple of weeks. Especially with crypto.
Absolutely. I think, you know, we're at the leading edge at the moment, but the next, you know, 4 or 6 months is really going to be the real interesting play out. And yeah, for companies who can survive even in this short period of time is going to be interesting. And you're right. I mean, right, globally, the need for contactless payments has become quite higher. And, you know, when you look at the availability of that, you know, if you're in a first world country, like, you know, for most of us here, it's probably, you know, it goes without saying, you know, you go to a terminal and use your FPOS machine. You know, you can tap your card. But you look at, you know, the third world countries, particularly, you know, my part of the world, where, you know, a lot of the Asian countries are still cash only. You know, if you want to take it, unless you go into a you know, high street market, you're going to be dealing in cash. That's a challenge. But generally, I've found in those environments, they still have a phone. So I think that's a nice little niche for us in the crypto space. Is, you know, if people have got a phone, they can have a wallet loaded up there and still be able to, you know, transact contactlessly. But there's still you know, there's still a bit of work to do there to convert. You know, what we see in first world countries, where, you know, I guess most of our focus is on a daily basis, but I think where part of our target market is actually, you know, less fortunate countries who are actually generally use social media at a much higher fashion. I think that's still there's a threshold there that we need to, you know, crack somehow, and that's where I think we'll see our boom occur.
Probably is going to be once we have a mobile wallet. It's going to be the key for furthering your extension into different societies.
Right, and it's, you know, it's not lost on us where we've been relying on third parties for, you know, for the initial wallet servicing. You know, companies like Koinomi have used or had us embedded there for quite some time, and you know, our thought process still is a mobile application with a wallet that services social media. I mean, that's really, you know, that's kind of our core focus. But having a you know, support on a mobile platform, yeah, that's going to be the main part, because who wants to lug their laptop around everywhere they go?
That's true. That's true. And there are some technical challenges to having an actual staking mobile wallet. Some of the other projects have sort of built protocols around that. We have a bit of a heavy tech requirement on most of the approaches, but that is definitely something. And I think we definitely need to take some time and rebuild our own roadmap to include some of those things and update into 2020, because I know that we haven't done that. despite, work progressing and partnerships and the rest of that. But Jim, looks like you're having a lot of fun out there.
Easy on the trampoline.
Oh, is that what it was? I just saw the videos spinning. Yeah, I think there's a lot of directions like that we have the opportunity to go. And the thing that's interesting to me is, we don't want to grow too fast. We never have. And part of this process of getting the core wallet and RedID built and out there sort of slowly but surely, we've also built up some of the infrastructure. We're working on those on ramps and off ramps and things like that, at the same time that the world is sort of slowly turning to, hey, what's this crypto stuff? I think the fact that we've got, a bit of a long running history and that just head down, getting the work done kind of reputation, I think that's going to serve us very well in the future. The other thing I did want to comment on, because obviously, we talk amongst ourselves and about how to get things done, and should we take investment money was a topic of conversation at one point. At this point, probably about a year plus back. And we did speak to some investors and almost come to terms and went through the whole process and all the fun that's involved in that. Ultimately, as we kind of decided, and also, Fortune didn't smile upon us with the right business plan or whatever it might have been. So we've gone in this sort of self-funding, sort of unique approach. I just read yesterday, and I'm pretty kind of gratified well, not gratified, it's sort of, you'll see what I'm talking about. I read where there's a couple of projects, Factum, I think Civic might be, apart from the lawsuit, might be dealing with this too, but Factum, which is a solid project and has been running probably as long as we have. I think they're an Ethereum ERC token. I could be wrong about that, but they're actually shutting down. They had some investors come in and fund their operations and make, whatever commitments that they made, and ultimately weren't able to deliver the revenue and the results that they needed. And their investors are now liquidating and sort of shutting everything down in order to recover that money. That to me was sort of a out there nebulous, we don't want that to happen, of course, but to see that happen to a project that's not unlike ours, that's scary, and as a small business in this space that's sort of emerging, we've tried to figure out how to do things right and for the best for Reddcoin. I am very kind of gratified and proud to say that we're not subject to that. And as soon as, of course, POSV activates, we're even more independent. But that ability to just sort of take out projects that are otherwise, I mean, Factum is a functional, they've got products out, they've got, working blockchain and a pretty good team, really. That's scary. So that's the business side of what we're doing here. And, again, we're sort of navigating uncharted waters with that as well as the technology. Part of the fun, I guess, certainly part of the challenge. But, it's something to think about. And the way we've approached things, obviously, is not like, I would say, any other projects, let's say most other projects, because there are some folks like Potcoin that share a lot of characteristics with us, not just POSV, in that concept of really trying to avoid the business entanglements and the sort of shooting ourselves in the foot. I kind of wanted to just throw that out there just as a thought. Some of the decisions that we've made really do seem to have borne the right kind of fruit. And it's that positioning that we're going into this next few months to a year of the world kind of trying to figure out what crypto is and how to use it to stay isolated, I think is perfect. We'll definitely reap the benefits of that, I think, in the medium to short term. And, I wanted to share that with you folks. It's a lot of talking. Back to you, John.
Sure, I'll tag team with you. So I actually agree. I've been in this project for exceptionally long time now, and while it may have been funded externally through an ICO initially, a very modest amount. The fact that we've been able to keep this project going without outside influence, hindsight's always 20, as they say. It would be horrible to be in a position where the investors say, well, we need out because I need to liquidate and do whatever I need to do with my money, and basically pull the rug out from underneath you. I think the fact that we've been able to avoid that and keep carrying on is, I'll say it's been more of a philosophy for us, being self-funded while we've explored, inviting investment in, because that obviously makes things go faster. You front load things with development with extra cash. You could go and hire those people today and have something like this happen tomorrow, which you can't foresee, and just have everything pulled out from underneath you. And that would hurt a lot. I feel for any business, any company who's in that situation. That's got to hurt. So it's, while not ideal, I guess for the outside looking in, why is it taking so long to get stuff done? We'll weather this. We'll survive this, and unless the internet burns down, we should be. We're in for the long haul. It's those kind of decisions that as Jay, as you know, we kick around all the time when these discussions come up. We're running on the smell of the oily rag, but the fact that we do means that day by day, week by week, month by month, and year by year, we've been able to survive and carry on without too much interruption.
Yeah, and there are pros and cons there. We're not delivering as quickly as some other projects or as quickly as we'd like to, but at the end of the day, we also don't have those risks. So, I think there is a measured approach to everything in crypto that needs to be taken. And we have made some immense progress from a technical level. And it's hard to explain without folks being really technically oriented. But the work that we're doing to bring the core wallet up through these evolutions of Bitcoin, and their software releases, as you guys know, we're working on 0.10 of Bitcoin's code at the moment, or we will be shortly. We're currently earlier than that, but all of that is not, easy work. And for folks to sort of second guess what we're doing, it's funny. We posted announcements about this event in different channels, some of them not specifically Reddcoin, obviously. And in some of those channels, we got, let's say, less than friendly responses because they have people who are just used to the price. That's what drives interest in a lot of projects is the price. Nobody's interested in Reddcoin for the price because it's not doing anything, and we know that, and we're not promoting on that. But that was the response that we got. Hey, this coin's still alive? Yeah, it is. We've been working steadily. We're a little reserved about what we're talking about because we like to get there first, and that's in opposition to the way a lot of the rest of the industry, does its business. But it's worked very well for us to this point. Now we will, obviously, as we get to certain milestones, have a bunch more to talk about, and we'll get a little bit more active there. But that's been, as John said, that's been our approach right along, is kind of the conservative. Let's not blow our own horn. Let's let other people blow it for us. And that's, part of the reason why things take a bit longer than they maybe should. But we are, very proud of what we've built to this day. I know I am, I know John is, I know everybody else on the team, is proud to be part of this group. And that fills me with a lot of pride and happiness. And then the flip side of that, what we can do in the future with this kind of call it an organization or a group of people, and the funding from POSB that will enable some of these initiatives, I could not be more excited about our future and, what Reddcoin can kind of bring to the world, not being over the top. And, we're not going to be the only crypto in the world. We're not going to replace Bitcoin and Ethereum, not in a million years. And if we did, they'd have to find something else to denominate our coin in. But I think, we've made an issue of saying we'll all grow together, different projects, different applications, different use cases. I think we're starting to see that right now. And it is very exciting, not just from the top of the project, from everybody that's joined and everybody that's bringing their expertise to things. And that's one of the things that we want to kind of encourage with this meetup, this kind of social interaction. Anybody attending, and we don't obviously have a lot of guests for this one, maybe for the next one, if we do a better job of promoting and not wait until the last minute. But, it is about the people that make up the group. It's not just John, it's not just me, it's not just Tim and Jim and Chris. It's the sum of the parts and working together what we can get done here. We've had some awesome people join in the last even couple of months. Ronnie, Doug, Forgetting people, I'm quite sure.
Yeah,
Walt,
yeah.
Walt hanging out in the background, offering his insight. Yeah, I mean, apart from it being, specific call outs, we've collected a lot of talent. We've done a lot of good things, and really on a shoestring budget, I think that, we have nothing but good stuff ahead of us, and frankly, I don't like to blow our horn too much, but yeah, it's very exciting times for a lot of reasons. And, to everybody who's on the team, I don't know if I've said recently, but thanks for everything that you're doing. And to all of our redheads, of course, the few in the room, the rest of watching on the video or joining the next event, hopefully. You're welcome to join us and help. It's a lot of fun. It's a lot of challenges. It's not like anything I've ever done before, despite, lots of years in tech. Every day brings new challenges. And you're welcome to help us make what we're trying to make come to life. And again, thanks to the team, thanks to everybody in this room and the folks who aren't here for making that happen and for helping out and, loving our vision as much as we do and thinking it's worth your time. So that's my shout out to the group and to our partners, of course. Sure, I'll comment on them later. Yeah, and by the way, and a special thanks to Tim for really doing a ton of stuff behind the scenes, making my job easier in general. But, really stepping up. I love this team. I think everybody involved in it, has their own pros and cons and brings something special. That's all. We're not like every other project, and I'm pretty proud of that. So if I could turn it over to somebody else after a bunch of babbling, I would love to do that.
Take a drink, take a refreshment.
Yeah, exactly.
And it's really cool to be a part of this group of hardworking people that are putting something that's really, in my opinion, life-changing and changing for the world. When you look at Reddcoin and what we're setting ourselves to accomplish, it's really more of it's more at home with me with getting with this crypto, because there's a lot more passion involved with this project. It's not about the hype. It's not about putting out for the price. A lot of people in this space are locked on, where can I make a profit? Where can I make $1? And obviously money is important and it makes the world go around in a sense. But when you're looking to a company that's going to be impacting the world and making a difference in somebody's life, that's where I think Reddcoin stands out. That's the whole reason why I got involved in this project. And I remember messaging you about a year ago and just reaching out and saying to myself, let me see what I can do to help with this project, because I love what they're doing. I sent a message to Jay and for all those folks out there that are thinking to themselves, hey, I don't know if I have anything to bring to the table. You can do anything you set your mind to. I put my time in the service, in the military, and then when I got out, I was going to college. I'm still currently in college for cybersecurity. Came across Reddcoin, been following them for years, and there was something in the back of my mind like, why don't you just reach out and see if you can help in any way, shape, or form? I remember sending a message to Jay and was like, hey, is it possible if I could maybe get a chance to talk to you, see what I could do to help? And to be honest, I didn't really have an idea what it is I wanted to do, but I was joining the meetings. I was getting involved with the interaction with the team. And the more and more I attended and the more I got the chance to sit around and talk to these folks that are on Reddcoin, opened my eyes to what it is I was capable of helping out with. And I mean, fast forward a year almost that I've been a part of the team. And it's been a driving force for me to want to do better for the world, to help people out and make a difference. And I love this company. I love this project. I love the people that are on the team. And it's every single day I'm waking up and I'm saying to myself, what can I do to help push this company forward? And, I think everybody's been doing a great job at doing that. So it's a little bit of a spiel from me.
Yeah, and just to kind of comment on that, the funny thing is, you reached out a year ago. Other people obviously on the call have reached out the same way. I'm in the position I'm in because 5 years ago at this point, 6 years ago, who the hell knows, I did the same thing. You know, I was a Reddcoin user at one point. I was not, you know, a member of the founding team. People may not know that. John was a member of the original team, junior as he might have been, but you know, I was a Reddcoin miner and working on other projects and trying to figure things out. I saw that John was having trouble, you know, after the original team sort of decided for their own reasons it wasn't going to happen. John maintained it and kept it going, and to his credit, you know, ran the shop for a year or so all on his own. I stepped up because, you know, again, just like Tim said, there's something with Reddcoin. There's a perfect storm of, you know, eco-friendly tech and zero to low fee transactions and instant gratification of getting coins immediately and tipping and all that good stuff. But it wasn't going to happen unless people in the community stepped up. So I did. And I messaged John and we had a couple of chats, and he let me in to help with a couple of things. And, you know, it's been a partnership since then, 5-6 years at this point. You know, it's not something I would trade for anything in the world. You know, and I've had a frustrating and, you know, an annoyingly awesome time helping Reddcoin get to where it is now. And I know John has as well. And despite wildfires and hailstorms and rains of frogs and poison snakes and sickness and death and now pandemics and locusts, and the Reddcoin train keeps rolling. Yeah, I mean, it's nice, you know, it really is. We are a virtual operation. There's nowhere to be flooded out of or, you know, burned out of, really. And for that reason, and because we're a group of, you know, kind of virtually, you know, tied together folks, Reddcoin really is that peer-to-peer solution. That's how we're building it as a group. That's how we're working with the users. That's part of the beauty of Reddcoin, and that's, you know, partly why I stepped up and partly why I gave it everything that I have, because it's a crypto with heart, and I think people have responded to that. And if we can maintain that and we can build that and explain it, and, you know, there are technical reasons that it's great, but I think there are other reasons it's even greater, and that's really where we shine. And it doesn't take anybody special, you know, the concept of, you know, developers sitting off by themselves. We're not special. John and I are regular guys. Tim, Jim, Chris, everybody, you know, is a regular person that came to the space, got interested, stepped in to do what they could. And, you know, there's no difference between anybody out there really and us, you know, technical, not technical, whatever your skill set is. And I repeat this a lot, you can help if you want, if you're not in it, you know, as a get rich quick scheme. I think it's safe to say none of us are. If you're not in it, you know, to build your own ego and, you know, be important, again, I don't think any of us are. That's really the beauty of Reddcoin. The fact that we can work together to build these solutions to help people, to save, you know, a bit of humanity, let's say, around the globe, not just a payment system, but anybody is welcome to join, welcome to help out, you know, as long as you've got the Reddcoin spirit. That's really all we're looking for. And I think that's how we grow, and that's how we get better, and that's how we've done it since, you know, it was just John and me. It's good to see the group growing the way it has.
Yeah, absolutely.
It's
I was just gonna say that you know, the big thing that drives home with me with Reddcoin is, you know, we have a great community. We have so many people that are in the space that follow us and talk to us, and who, you know, pitch in where they can, you know, on a day-to-day basis. And, you know, if you're not in this room, or, you know, if you're in the Telegram or the Discord, or, you know, any one of you folks that are, you know, following the project, we thank you so much. You guys are helping us a ton, and it's really powerful to see that, you know, our community is, you know, coming together to really push this project forward. We can't thank you guys enough, man. It's really, really touching to see this. And that's the thing that I love so much about, you know, Reddcoin, is that it's not just the team, it's not just the company, but it's the community. It's our redheads, if you want to call it, that are constantly coming to us day in and day out, and they're asking where to pitch in or where to help, or they're donating to help us, you know, complete a task or move forward. It's, you know, it's really different for me to see this, because there's not a lot of projects out there that have that sense of camaraderie, and that's something that's really touching to me. I know I can speak for the rest of you guys when I say that we have a great community. So, and that's where a lot of people come from, is our community, because they hang around for so long and they see what we're doing. They're like, I got to get involved. It's so awesome to see what they're doing. And it's impacting, and when it changes you as a person when you get the chance to see that, you can bring something to the table. It's going to actually change the world and change somebody's life. It's going to be incredible.
Absolutely.
Too true. Yeah. I think that's even, just to speak for myself on that, I'm also not a member of the founding team. I came in probably onto the team at least 12 months into them running as a junior developer. But what attracted me into Reddcoin, and I was kind of doing everything else prior to that, mining and being socially, involved socially on Reddit and whatnot when the original team was there. But the concept of what they're trying to do is what's carried me through. While the technology is fantastic, I mean, what it all boils down to is really trying to give back, socially to various people, individuals or groups. When crypto sort of started building up, kind of the end of 2013, and started to get a little bit of a roll going on, the price had jumped up. What was it, about $1,500 or something or other back at the end of 2013. That's kind of when it really captured the world's attention, not from a method of funding drug purchases and things, but more of there's something more to this. And Reddcoin kicked off in January of 2014, a little bit loose in their goals, but if you go back to some of the history on that, the goal still remains the same as being able to give back to the community, being able to be positive, and I think fast forward that to 2020, I think we're so close to being able to have to do that anyway. You look at how many unemployed now in the last 8 weeks. More than half the world has now become unemployed, just like that. So discussions around universal basic incomes and things which start to crop up in the government circles and things. People need to be able to find a way of funding themselves, just to be able to put bread on the table and be able to survive. So I think more than ever, the goals that we've strived towards are starting to be needed now, so that people can help out or be helped as part of that. So the whole goal from the team point of view is to be accessible, and I don't think anybody's put themselves so high on a pedestal not to be reached. Well, personally, not always accessible, because I'm just shocking when it comes to answering personal messages, as so many of you know. But people do know how to get in contact with me, and that's part of what we've been able to do, is keep that network going. And when something needs to be responded to quickly, people know which buttons to press and get people involved. But that's one of the things, as I took the project over originally, as Joe was saying, as a one-man show, it was a pretty tough gig. And I'm appreciative to see the team has grown, and as everybody's become involved, the whole goal is being able to be accessible and build on each other's trust and not be, one of the challenges with crypto originally, or I guess it still is, depending on how you look at it. It's a very technically challenging function. If you're talking about designing the wallet and being involved in the code point of view, but there's a whole ecosystem that goes around that. And that's where Reddcoin and the goal of being a social currency. The wallet's not a very particularly social tool, but the people around it and using the functionality and trying to enable different functionality for different social platforms. That's where when that becomes enabled, and we've done some proof of concepts and things over the years, we know the concept is sound. it's bringing that technology to make the concept continue to function, not just from a technical point of view, but also, one of the things I used to throw out there, my grandmother needs to be able to use this technology. We need to make it simple and accessible, and having such a diverse group of people now on the team and being involved, in the different social platforms that we have where we communicate, it's helping to enable it. We've got people from different walks of life being able to add comments. We put out beta versions for people to test, or alpha versions for people to test and get feedback on. So personally, I think we have a very sound concept, and while it's very slow to, our development team is not particularly huge, and we've got guys who do float in and out at different times. Bringing that to the people and making that easy for people to use, that's going to be the killer moment, so to speak.
It's true. All right, so we didn't get the turnout that we were looking for, but I think with a few guests in the room, maybe we could do a bit of Wheel of Fortune, give away some things if you guys would like to excuse me, that is not coronavirus cough, by the way. That is years and years. Yeah, there's something about it. As much as I haven't been out, I've noticed you cough in public now and people look at you. Explain your cough.
Yeah, they get mad now. Yeah,
God damn,
absolutely.
sorry. Yeah, no, I'm just a smoker. Yeah.
I would say if you want, let's turn it over to the people in the room for a few minutes and see if anyone's got any questions, and
Sure.
if everyone's wants to throw some questions our way or individually, it's up to y'all. We'll leave it up to you guys, and feel free to just.
Yeah, if anybody has any questions or thoughts, or you just want to talk a bit to us or about us or complain at us, feel free to come off mute. It looks like, and I don't quite understand why, we've got Ignacio Rodriguez about 7 times. Wondering what's going on there, but we do have some guests in the room. So Rohit or Donald, or who else do we have here? It's not on the team. Andrew, we heard you. We made you talk earlier.
Yeah, and if you don't want to be on camera and you don't want to talk over the mic, you can always drop your question right in the little text bar.
Yeah,
Feel free to write out your question real quick.
And we'll make you a deal. We've got a little bit of a Wheel of Fortune giveaway set up here. So if anybody wants to participate, you'd be the first in line for spinning the wheel, or having it spun for you, I guess. Win some red coins, some hat, shirt, maybe have to take over the team. You never know what's on there. Anybody feel like stepping up? Yes, no, maybe?
I do have a question.
Fire away.
Now, I'm not a computer technologist, nor am I a coder, and I've been studying blockchain and crypto for about 3 years. And I continue to, have and read all the threads of what's going on in this crypto space. And we're going to see some exciting times. And this world event is going to change things so much that we will not be returning to where we were.
Agreed.
And the things that I continue to read about is that of the thousands of different blockchain projects, many of them will fall away. And there will be a smaller percentage that will be so successful and will be around for many, many years. And Reddcoin has a niche, and there are other companies that perhaps, now I'm coming from the point of view, as I explained, I'm not in your coding world and I don't know the background of all this, so I don't want my question to sound stupid or great on sensible perspectives as where you are. So I don't want to offend anybody, but I think you have spoken of partnerships And there are some projects that probably could very likely use what Reddcoin is building, and those partnerships might really have a lot to contribute to Reddcoin. And I mean, I think about Bitcoin Cash in the future becoming so successful, and what a partnership with a project like that that can promote Reddcoin, and Reddcoin can be a platform to be in exchange in the background and do what Reddcoin does. And do you, I'm sorry, I took the mute off, but can you elaborate or educate me on what can possibly be happening in the future?
Sure. I'll jump on that first, John, if you want to follow
Yeah,
up.
I was going to say I'll back you. I'll back you on that one.
Okay. Yeah, I mean, the fact that you're not coming to this from a technological background, I can just say that gives you insights into kind of what we're doing and why we're doing from the aspect of not everybody is a technologist. In fact, very few people are, despite everybody relying on technology immensely and more so day by day now with, you know, what's going on. What we've always been trying to do is to make things very simple. So the technology you don't have to understand a blockchain to use it. The same way you don't have to understand SMTP protocols in order to send email. It's that concept of, if we make the way things happen very straightforward and understandable, the underlying stuff, you know, you don't need to be a mechanic to drive a car. It helps, and you can, you know, do things that other car drivers can't, but you don't have to be a mechanic to drive a car. And I think that's a good analogy for what we're trying to do. The niche that Reddcoin has really, and it's by virtue of being an incredibly fast coin, one with, you know, wide distribution of actual coins available, it being a proof of stake and not a, you know, heavy proof of work mined coin, all leads us to this niche that we've had since the very beginning of being able to live online on social medias, to be able to send back and forth very quickly, which was a promise that Bitcoin itself had and really never lived up to, as well as the fee issue and things like that. So there are some ways, I think, in which Reddcoin specifically for our use case is almost unique compared to a lot of the other folks that have either started to target that space, whether it's Libra or Social Send or Brave browser with their BAT token. Other projects have come to that use case from different approaches, and nobody's really stepped into what we've tried to do because you need certain technological aspects. Now, on the other side of that, and it speaks to your question about Bitcoin Cash, we obviously, and I specifically, but as a project, we're open to partnering with anybody with the right set of, you know, morals and ethics that isn't in this for a quick cash grab and to screw over the users. That's always been, you know, John and my shared vision is there's too much of that. We need to be different. Not that, you know, Bitcoin Cash is not that. What I'm saying is a project like that, we would have trouble sort of partnering with in any capacity other than, hey, let's swap our coins for their coins and make it easy for their users to be redheads and vice versa. We've really taken the tack of globally being sort of agnostic. There are certain coins we've partnered with in the sense that as an example, PHR, the foreign marketplace, we partnered with them very early on. And they've been working towards enabling Reddcoin. Had just released the beta of their marketplace based on OpenBazaar that does support Reddcoin, and they are moving forward with that. That to me is a useful partnership because it allows people to use the coin. Just allowing people to trade easily or promote their name for us promoting, you know, in exchange, there's not a lot of meat there. There's not a lot of content there. And the approach that we've tried to sort of cultivate is really when we get the software out and it's, you know, in that working form, that it will sort of be something that people can promote on, you know, in that sense, not the the general speculative sense, the concept that most people are tied into of what's the price today? What did the price do? Let's talk about the price and the volume and where it's trading. That's an aspect that a lot of projects really want to hammer on and talk about, and we have no interest in it. So partnership for Reddcoin means something different than partnership to a lot of projects. And the other concept that I can talk to, and I would even defer to John to speak to it in more depth, should he choose to, things of that nature. When you say partnerships with Bitcoin Cash or with Bitcoin, with Ethereum, technologically the integrations are coming that will offer chain-to-chain swaps, sort of connectivity peer-to-peer in a very crypto ethic related, no middleman, no third party, no excessive fees. That's an evolution of the blockchain tech that's sort of been coming and will evolve. But that replaces some of that functionality of partnerships that you're talking about, because we don't need to partner with the devs at Bitcoin Cash, let's say, if we have the ability to just swap Bitcoin Cash for Reddcoin easily on our chain. So we definitely are looking for strategic partners. Ripples is one of them, and unfortunately, some of the efforts we had underway with them were a bit derailed by the coronavirus and the fact that when you're talking about crowd-facing technology and all of a sudden crowds aren't a thing for the foreseeable future, they're reimagining and re-envisioning sort of what their go-to-market strategy is going to be. Total View is another of our partners in that group, and they're doing the same thing. And we're sort of rolling with those punches as well to sort of see how Reddcoin can enable what they're trying to do. But that's an example of someone that we looked at very strategically that was not in the blockchain space, but can bring things to Reddcoin, usability and applications that we just don't have the ability to do ourselves right now. To my mind, that's a much more valuable strategic approach, because it leads to people needing to have Reddcoin, needing to use Reddcoin to do these things, excuse me, as opposed to just it's a neat coin and it moves fast and isn't that awesome? And really, I mean, that was a long-winded response, but it's from the approach of we're not looking to make sales in general, and that sets us apart too. It's a lot of the mentality out there is how do we maximize revenue? How do we get more users and sell more product? And none of those things really are in our kind of top 5 priorities, if you will. And I'll, again, talking quite a bit, I will turn it over to John. But yeah, I mean, the partnership thing is definitely, thanks, Andrew, is definitely, a big part of what we're doing. The tech, I don't want to say it runs itself. We haven't had any major problems. That's, kudos to John, to me, to everybody doing that stuff, that it's transparent. But the tech's the easy stuff, not coding it, just letting it run.
Yeah, thanks, Jay. Actually, I think, the other side of partnerships is actually the collaboration too. I think there's really 2 strains of projects, generally speaking, Ethereum-based or Bitcoin-based projects. And I think while technology is similar but different, part of it also is being able to collaborate. And what we've been able to do over the last 12 months is actually bring together a bunch of different like-minded projects, generally on the smaller side, but being able to kick around ideas and thrash out issues that one of us may be having or the others needs some help with. So I think just like you guys are to us, sometimes we are to the likes of Bitcoin Cash or Bitcoin, where the size that you feel is that you don't want to join in with them specifically, but all projects, the majority of projects, are all open source too. So part of the positive side of that is when there are issues, you can, from a code point of view, you can make code changes and submit pull requests and be able to push those changes up to those projects to help out. Just like you are now, floating an idea and asking for some feedback. So I think for me, looking at how partnerships and collaborations and things fall into place, I think that it's a bit of a wild path to walk down, and sometimes it's really, as Jay was saying, finding some strategic partnerships clearly help, because it may be an avenue that you never thought that you wanted to actually be in or participate in. But there's a particular use case that is a nice fit. Same as or similar to collaborating. Finding some projects have similar goals in mind. Ultimately, strengthen one strengthens all type of scenario. And that's one of the things I was always pitching out previously. And in that transition from the previous team to what we currently have now, that it was kind of like a 12-month, 18-month period. In that time, I was trying to bring the virtue of collaboration between different teams, and I actually reached out to teams like Dogecoin, and even at the other extreme, I had quite a strong critic in the guy who'd taken over the Nyan Cat, who was quite a vocal Reddit user back in the Nyan Coin, sorry, not Nyan Cat, Nyan Coin, quite a vocal critic back in the early days. But I actually reached out to him directly, just a direct message, because I was getting frustrated, annoyed with his messaging publicly, and we had quite a long, Reddit chat, which back then it was a little bit more challenging in the direct messaging. It wasn't a chat, so to speak. It was a bunch of message exchanges. But we actually come to, after a bit of back and forth, we actually come to a mutual understanding of what we're both trying to achieve. And what we realized that the problem was a misunderstanding on what we're actually trying to achieve. And usually you'll hear scam coin yelled out by investors who aren't happy with price movement. Well, price has been one of those things that, while it's good for us to keep the bill, paying the bills, it's kind of far from our idea, because generally you build something and if people like it, they'll use it, and if people use it, that improves your usability, and people wanting to, and adoption will drive the price type thing. And that's kind of where we're at. Is, in fact, I even tried to just instill this on the original developers when I first joined, was you can't build your boat when the wave has already passed. You've got to build your boat ready for the next wave. And we've been through a couple of those in our short lifetime. If you just talk about price movements, that's always attracts the biggest interest. Once price jumps up, people get exceptionally excited about it, trade you until you die again. What we're trying to do is avoid that and actually build something that is usable and be able to have the general public take that product or project that you build and adapt it and be able to use it. And sort of looking at all those ideas, having strategic partnerships helps drive that, because it shows that you're extensible and you can plug into people's ideas and become usable. And also being able to collaborate with like-minded teams and problem solve, because on the technical side, on the cryptocurrency side, most projects are all following the same same code bases and things, and it's taking making sure you have a strong product that's not going to fall over. And touch wood, we've been quite lucky not to be hit by any major technical issues in the whole time that the blockchain is running. And when they have surfaced, we've been able to jump on those pretty quickly. And in fact, that's what brought me to the development side of Reddcoin in the first place, was an issue that was occurring in the blockchain. And we're able to, between myself and the other developers, were actually able to identify what that was and resolve the issue. And that was my jump from being a person in the general public and just mining and being a noisy social person into actually contributing in some mindful way. So again, sorry for a very long-winded part. I think it's a bit of a, it doesn't matter whether you're talking about Bitcoin or Bitcoin Cash or Ethereum, there's different layers. And I think part of it is collaboration and being able to talk with mutual respect for one another's projects. And the other part is, having strategic partnerships that will help you to, become integrated and for the most, actually, just one other point I want to make is, for the most part, the Reddcoin blockchain should almost be invisible for most users. Ideally, we should be able to, what I'd like to be able to do is transact between people and not even think that we're talking about Reddcoin, what is Reddcoin blockchain? You should be able to say, here's some coins and here's some transfer of value. And, back on the social media side of things, being our sort of core focus is, being able to it's monetizing the like button, I guess, is one way I used to put it. It's, having people not think about, if I click like and I'm transferring some value, what that actually means. It's like, I'm sending you a like because I like what you do and it's worth this much to me, type of thing. That's kind of the mindset that I have regarding, the social media side of things, and, different strategic partnerships, as Jay was saying, with those companies. They have different ideas on what that means, but on a whole, while we're having collaborative discussions and things helps drive those visions along as well. So I hope I was able to answer my side of things from a technical point of view. That's kind of where we're heading, and if Bitcoin Cash want to reach out to us and offer some advice, we're more than happy to take it.
Yeah, I mean, that's very true. Just building on what John said, I think a big part of this space and moving it forward is that attitude of, when I was starting in the space, it's that Bitcoin maximalist, only Bitcoin, nothing else, everything else is garbage. I don't think that's accurate. I don't think anybody who's got the team sports mentality of my coin, my team, my project over everybody else. I think a lot of that was driven by the speculative aspect, and obviously the louder coins early on were the ones that saw insane price spikes and then drops, of course. But that team mentality, to our mind, kind of collectively, doesn't really have a place here. And we are very tightly connected, kind of behind the scenes, to a lot of other non-ICO, small sort of grassroots, doing what we're doing in their own little use cases, in their own spaces. Potcoin is an example. Digibyte is obviously a bigger project, but the same mentality. Gresselcoin and Ravencoin, the vast majority of the projects listed on ChangeAngel, and even ChangeAngel, is another great exchange/crypto project that has the right attitude and the right, let's extend our hand to other projects and help them sort out their problems, and in their case, give them an exchange to live on. And in our case, maybe it's a technical question, or question about POSV. We've had those from other projects that are sharing some of our code. To me, that's the beauty of what we're doing, that a rising tide in crypto, crypto land really does float all boats and raise everybody up. And that, yes, the days of, speculative, those 10,000% price jumps, those are probably gone. But at the end of the day, it's not really about that. It's about what the technology can do. And in enabling that and talking amongst, our peers and the other developers and the other projects, there is a lot of exchange back and forth that doesn't make it to the point of, hey, we're partnered with XYZ. That being said, also, if there are projects out there that would specifically like to partner with Reddcoin, we are absolutely open, as long as you kind of synergize with us correctly and, you have the same general philosophical approach as we do. We are happy to talk to other devs, offer insight. We've been here for a while and aren't going anywhere. Or share tech or share, kind of co-promote where it's appropriate. It's that social currency that we have when we don't have any, actual currency. And that's really important, I think, in supporting guys doing good work. You'll never hear me, and I don't think I've ever heard John use the term shitcoin. I think that kind of stuff is disrespectful to folks who are, whatever their project, putting their hearts into things. And I think there's a ton of good work happening that is hard to see and, hard to really communicate to the user base. It's one of the reasons we encourage people to get involved in the team. It's just, you see more of the bubbling and frothing and the interesting stuff. But that being said, we're not absolutely at all averse to partnering with folks. we just don't want to be exclusive here or there, or, you know, it's sort of the general sense of being more inclusive to everybody, and, you know, being a community, really, whether it's crypto projects or people, redheads, remote workers, coronavirus survivors, whatever you want to call it.
We're a bit like the hippie coin. We're just like a big love in.
Yeah. Yeesh. All right. Well, that was a nice long answer to your question, Andrew.
Well, I am glad that I asked it. Both you and John have really put a lot out there from me asking the question, and that was excellent.
Cool. I mean, that's why we started. We decided to do this. It really is answering questions, getting info out to people is hard from our standpoint. Sometimes, you know, whether it's what channel do we put it on or how do we phrase it. This kind of interaction, you know, because we are recording this, we're gonna edit it down a bit, and make it public. But questions like that, even just to surface that information we just talked about, you know, that's how we get that stuff out there. So if you have more questions, feel free. If anybody else in the room, Grigor, I see you hanging out there, and I didn't say hi to you before. Longtime redhead and one of our biggest supporters, of course.
And I will say, you know, just on the back of Andrew's initial sort of statement, there are no dumb questions. You know, I'll answer the same question a million times. Maybe not the same session, but certainly, you know, there are no dumb questions. You know, if somebody is asking a question, it's either because they want to know or don't know, or, you know, want somebody else to know. And yeah, feel free to ask. And, you know, I have no problem in repeating myself, you know, session by session on particular items that need to be discussed, and you know, help educate people, because that's kind of what these sessions are about. You know, while we can sit here and give the company spiel, the other side of this is, you know, educating and you know, making the community feel comfortable that, you know, we have their best interests at heart as well.
Yeah, absolutely.
As far as the developers are concerned, what is the #1 project to get out?
Oh, okay, that's addressed to me. Thanks, Randy.
Hey, what are friends for?
Exactly. So, I guess roadmap wise, we have a whole bunch of goals we want to achieve. You know, RedID is probably RedID would be the #1 project to get out, because that's kind of what everything else stems from. Now we've kind of taken a bit of a put that on ice for the minute. It's not dead, it's just on hold, because we've had to flip back to Core Wallet to enable the PSV2 features. And you know, a part of what that does is, you know, it helps drive the, you know, developer funding. You know, going back to what Jay was saying before, we need to find a way of continue the funders, because, you know, nobody's paying the bills. We're you know, for the most part, funding ourselves, you know, out of our own pockets, you know, out of our own personal love for this project. There's no income coming from, you know, investors or whatnot. And while that's served us well, it doesn't actually help. You know, it's taking bread from my table. So PSV, you know, the goal of PSV2 is to you know, create developers funding account, so that we can help pay the bills and, you know, start attracting, you know, whether it's more developers. And I'll segue to this in a moment, but we need to get, you know, a bit of a pot on the table to help the project forward. So at the moment, you know, this point in time is getting the Core Wallet PSV2 is out there in the wild. We're updating the wallet. I'm currently driving to get to Bitcoin version 0.10 or equivalent code base. Now that brings in a couple of things that from a technical point of view are important. There's a bunch of code fixes that will serve us well. One of the things from a adoption point of view is headers first synchronization, which, you know, for most cryptocurrencies, that works really well. For Reddcoin, it's a little bit more problematic because of the way that POSV works, and in fact, just POS coins generally. If you go out and see, there's a bunch of discussions about what that means for a POS coin, and some have integrated it and some have not. That slows us down. You know, if somebody's synchronizing a Core Wallet, you know, it takes a significant amount of time to synchronize, because we're doing it, you know, essentially block by block, which is, well, about 2-3 million blocks it is roughly now. it takes a bit of time to synchronize. So that's kind of my goal, is to get that implemented and then switch back to RedID. The other part is we have a bunch of Mac users who have upgraded to Catalina, and in the current code base we have, it's a mess trying to get Catalina to work. So trying to pull everything up to actually become functional again, and we'll probably freeze the wallet then at that point and start putting most of our focus back on RedID to get that out and going. And we've put those out, had RedID up there, as again proof of concept and technical tests. We're running a few hurdles at different times. In fact, just over the weekend, passing here, I've had a few ideas on how to improve what we're doing there. Number of clients connected has always been an issue. We can tend to drop connections and things with our current technology stack. So I've, in my mind, been having a bit of a rethink of what that means when we get back to it. And we actually have a developer sitting in the wings who's been doing the front end of stuff for RedID for the browser plugin. He's been focusing on, he tends to focus on the front end, but we haven't brought him in yet because my focus has been on the back end. And once we get that up and going again, we can start the next round of development cycles. So I guess in summary, where we're at the moment, core wallets are our main focus because we need to get some of our Mac users up, and we do have a fair percentage of those involved. And then once we get that sorted out, is to go across and get the RedID happening again.
Yep, and just to amplify a little bit of that, RedID and some folks, especially newer ones to the Reddcoin community, aren't real sure or real aware of what RedID really is, apart from the fact that it's occasionally mentioned. And I'll actually, I've been trying to find time to do it up to this point. I will be having a video recorded on sort of what RedID is and why it's special. We should have out shortly. But basically, RedID is our reason for existing. RedID is one of the key reasons that Reddcoin, would be something you'd want to have. And we really took the approach, again, as a small volunteer unfunded team, of trying to put that together as comprehensively as we could and making sure that it worked in a way that protected users' funds, in a way that was non-custodial, as the industry says, or where we don't have control over your keys, but you users do. And that, of course, is different than a lot of the more centralized sort of web wallets and things of that nature. And we got to a point, I believe, about the middle of last year, where we had gotten that product to, the RedID product in its release, and probably the second version of it, to a point where it basically did the job. It needed a lot more polish and work, and we essentially started to run out of the ability to sustain our work and turned, to this POSV v2 as a solution to that. That's been the focus since that point, purely to get the transition and consensus, through in a way that's going to sustain our project moving forward, and then getting back to RedID. And that's something that obviously, if we had more coders, more developers on the team, and again, the invitation's extended. Anybody who's out there and idle, looking to make a contribution to that or any other part of what we're doing, you are welcome and invited to join. Contact me directly or anybody else on the team. But that really has been the bottleneck. So having to focus on the core wallet work itself, taking a lot of care and detail to make sure that obviously we're talking about people's money with the core wallet with any of these products. So we want to ensure what we're doing works. There's no risk that things are tested. And that's taken quite some time. We are at the point now, we're about 67% through activation for POSV v2. As John said, a component of the community in the Mac Catalina world, we are struggling to get that support in place, but that's really been the focus. And as soon as we've gotten that in place and POSV v2, is active or it's continuing down that path, we will be turning back to RedID to really hammer that out and get it out to the public. That is the reason we exist, really, or certainly one of them, the use case that fits our technology so beautifully. There is, if you take a look at the Love Button repository in our GitHub, there is code out there that, is more or less functional. The back end is a bit crippled at the moment. Again, when we get back to that, that'll be fixed in short order. But it's not any secret, it's not a secret product the way that it used to be. We've turned it public. If you're a coder and you want to take a look at it and add or, contribute, it's just about asking and raising your hand. But that really, again, I'm repeating a lot of what John said, but that's the focus of what we're doing. It's not about necessarily exchange listings. It's not about lots of wallets. It's not, those things are important to a complete ecosystem, but our focus really is on the reason you would want to have Reddcoin. It's not a speculative token. It's not a speculative coin. What is it? It's a utility token. It's meant to be used. It's meant to be spent as a tip or sent as, online love. That's what we're aiming for. It's not pumping and hyping the project so people can get the price up so we can sell our giant bags of Reddcoin. We have none or very few. And that really, is, again, it's a different approach than a lot of projects have taken. And we've simply done what we can with the resources we can. The more people we get, the more donations we get from you guys, the more we can do. So let's do it together. And that's my spiel.
Got a question on the wallet. As you're going up to 0.10 standards, is that going to make it easier for tracing of all transactions?
Actually, sorry, I'll answer that one if you like. Actually, it'll pretty much remain the same. So I'm assuming, well, actually, no, I won't assume. Let me ask you a question. So when you say tracing, is like to be able to actually track transactions or
yeah, better transactions and everything else. So I'm thinking more compliance for, at least here in the U.S. with FinCEN and BSA requirements. I was thinking, I looked through it. I was wondering if that actually going to increase it where it actually comes into their up to their standards.
I think most of the challenges we have on transaction tracing is not so much an issue on our side. The blockchain ledger is public available. So if you're able to scan through the blockchain and pull out the transactions, you'll find what funds came in and what funds go out to each particular address, staking addresses, et cetera, et cetera.
Are you, if I can interrupt for 1 sec, Randy, are you asking about the fact that in the core wallet, some of the transactions that you can't see originating addresses from, things like that?
Well, that or just on some of the couple sites I've looked at for tracking accounts, whatnot, or for transactions, it seemed lacking, or at least I don't know if it's just coding on the website or it's actual code on the blockchain having issues.
Go ahead, John. I know.
I was going to say, most likely it's probably the way the website deals with it, because basically if you look at a single block on Reddcoin, it's going to be effectively the same as what it would be for Bitcoin. So the same details are available there. You got the structure of the block, and I'm going to get really deep dive in the technical side of things here. You got the structure for what the block, what represents the block. Then within each block, you've got what represents the transaction. So in a block, you'll have a transaction that is the stake component. So whichever wallet is staking, they'll have a particular stake transaction when they validate that block. That has a output address that will dictate how much coin they've generated as part of the stake reward. And then additionally, for every transaction that's occurring, so you might be transferring from exchange to your wallet, or you're sending a tip to somebody, each one of those transactions occur as an individual entry inside the block. So basically the block is a basket. There's a stake transaction that represents who validated that block and their reward for that. And then everything else, so every other transaction that occurs in there, whether it's a tip or transfer from one exchange to your wallet, or even on RDD, we have our own transactions that occur there containing a special data transaction. In some block explorers, they don't interpret our stake information the way that we've created. why, I don't know, because we pretty much follow most of the state, the POS coins. We originally, our POS component was forked from Peercoin originally and tweaked for the velocity part of it. So generally, the problem would be with the website who's generating the visual view of it, because there should be no reason why you can't pull out as transactions. The transaction data is quite easy to see, and if you wanted to, if you've got access to the core wallet and you want to have a look at it, if you know the block ID, block number you want to look at, you can actually pull all that information out just by, it will come out as a JSON string, but you can pull that information out to view it. So there's nothing, our blockchain is publicly viewable. Just needs something to parse through all the data and map that out.
Yeah, and I was going to comment on that if you didn't touch on it, John, but exactly what John just said. There may be deficiencies in the way our core wallet displays things. There may be deficiencies in the way certain block explorers display things, but that's not necessarily reflective of what's actually happening on the blockchain itself. And in fact, competent programmers can go through, you have a complete copy of the Reddcoin blockchain on your computer if you're running the core wallet. You can mine through that for data the same way these block explorer sites do. That's essentially what they're doing. And it's just a matter of how that data is exposed and displayed and sorted. But the short answer is, if what you're calling transaction tracing, which is really just, legitimate transactions, being able to see what the inputs and the outputs are and, what addresses they're going to, if that functionality wasn't working perfectly and seamlessly, you'd have failed transactions. You'd have coins not being sent or not arriving or, all of that, which in fact does happen in certain blockchains. And there have been, extensive issues with forks and other things in other blockchains, really other than Reddcoin, where stuff like that is an issue. We thankfully, for a number of reasons, not the least of which is our protocol, the proof of stake, have avoided a lot of that. But just speaking to what you're saying, if those transactions weren't traceable and trackable according to the actual code standard, the network wouldn't function. Okay. So it's in part, and in fact, part of our funding is looking towards this. There are separate projects that need to be built around the blockchain. One of them, for example, is a block explorer. Now, John mentioned that as a term that some people might not be familiar with. If you take a look at one of these websites, live.redcoin.com being our block explorer, all that is a bit of code that's looking at the blockchain and displaying it in certain ways and letting it be searchable. But in that case, our own explorer is 4 years out of date. There are enhancements done with that software to expose more details of the blockchain, or be able to sort or search in different ways that we haven't incorporated into our own explorer simply as a matter of time and resources and things of that nature. That doesn't mean that data isn't in the explorer and isn't in the blockchain. It means that without a bit of digging, you can't see it.
We need to find the gold.
Right. So really, that's a part of how we kind of address the ecosystem as a bigger picture than just the blockchain, just the wallets. We're aware that yes, you need a robust block explorer. You need, interconnectivity with seed nodes and things that you typically wouldn't think about just as a crypto user. That's really kind of part of our role as the dev team, is to see those needs and try to address them. And in fact, we have in a couple of different ways. Live.redcoin, our explorer, is due for replacement. That would probably be the next most important internal project after RedID, for exactly the question that you just raised. Not so much the tracing aspect, validating specific transactions, but more from an informational standpoint. There's info on there that we can dig into to display RedID statistics, POSV V2 block status, stuff like that. It takes some work and some coding to expose that data, but it's all in the blockchain. I mean, the same thing really applies with Bitcoin. There are files and data encoded in the Bitcoin blockchain that you'll never see with the standard Bitcoin core wallets or with a Bitcoin account on Coinbase, but that data is there nevertheless. it's a similar concept with Reddcoin. And that was probably more information than you wanted, but hey, learning's
Oh,
never
no.
wasted.
Hey, it's all new information.
Yep.
Yeah,
Absolutely.
actually, I guess to boil it down, to put it in layman's terms, I'm not sure your expertise there, Randy, but basically, in order for a transaction to function in a blockchain, when you create the transaction, so you want to send coins from your wallet to the exchange, for example, your wallet needs to be able to do a couple of things. First of all, it needs to be able to identify all the outputs of your previous transactions and make sure that they're valid. So when you create the transaction, it knows that its inputs or the outputs of your previous inputs are actually true and exist in your wallet and exist correctly on the blockchain. So basically, when you create a transaction, you're going to say, these are the coins I want to send to this other address, and each one of those inputs needs to actually be valid. If you were to doctor your wallet, it's open source, you can get in there and try and hack it if you want to. If you were to try and put a non-valid input coin into your transaction, you might be able to sign that on your wallet because you've hacked it or played around with it. Sign it and send your transaction, and on your wallet it'll look correct. But when it's pushed out onto the network, that transaction needs to be accepted by every other wallet that exists on the network. So what it all boils down to, and this is what the great thing about the whole cryptocurrency environment is, no matter what you do as a user, you can play around with the wallet, you can change the color, the layout, you might be the world's greatest programmer and keep all that information to yourself. But the changes you bring into that wallet need to match what everybody else is doing on the network. So if you sign a transaction that agrees on your wallet and you decide to doctor it to make that occur when you broadcast that transaction out in the network, every other wallet needs to agree that what that transaction is actually representative. And that's kind of the interesting thing about the blockchain is that for everybody running a core wallet, you have a validated ledger of information. So if you dick around and put a non-valid input on yours and you manage to sign it, that won't match everybody else's wallet, and they'll basically say, it probably something like inputs already spent or some other obscure message, but won't actually allow that transaction to be validated on the network. It'll just float around there and then eventually fall off. So that's the consensus part of it. So as Jay was saying, it's got to work. If one wallet is broken, sorry, if our blockchain is broken, everybody will be having these issues, and we just wouldn't move forward. And bad transactions everywhere. So the nice thing about what we're doing is, while the information that may not be viewable on a nice GUI, the information will be there in a back-end sort of way. And if it needs to be pulled out, you can put a note out to, if it's a particular website you're dealing with, if there's information missing, you can raise an email or a note to them and say, hey, I'm really interested in this data because of blah, blah, blah. And there might be something that you're interested in actually implementing.
Yep.
Most of them I was looking at for regulatory compliance.
Well, I was going to comment on that after John, and just to say that, just as a reminder, Reddcoin is not anonymous. It's pseudonymous. It's just like Bitcoin. Transactions can be traced, they can be followed, they can be assigned to identities, even if that identity doesn't match to a name, and those identities can be de-anonymized in a bunch of different ways. Reddcoin is not a private coin by any means. There are privacy-oriented crypto coins out there like Monero, Dash, some well-known ones. Although we've talked very briefly about some of those features down the road, for the moment, Reddcoin is extremely trackable, extremely traceable, and companies like Chainalysis that do a lot of the in-depth compliance work on Bitcoin and Ethereum for the various governments, their products run on our blockchain seamlessly. That stuff is, as we get more popular, it becomes more of a challenge for us as a team to sort of address some of those secondary aspects of, we're not just a software project, we are a digital asset and a digital currency, and there are obviously some compliance aspects of that we need to speak to. For the most part, we're going to be, I think, very, I don't want to say lucky because it was a strategic kind of approach, but we are considered at this point a utility token, not a security under all current guidance, under the Howey test, until that evolves. So a lot of that, as much as we are a digital asset, it's a utility token and not a security. That's important because a lot of the projects that have been shut down or investigated or gone after on the security side of things has been for exactly that aspect of it, not what their technology does or is it being used for X, Y, and Z, but on the promotion side, on the investment side. And that's something that we really have no presence on. And as you know, I personally, I've spoken to some folks in regulatory positions and people who are trying to wrap their arms around the crypto sphere and see how to build legislation. We've approached things in a very kind of mechanical way to get the job done, where a lot of other projects have taken the blue sky, if you just invest in us, we'll change the world. I think that's going to serve Reddcoin very well in the future, especially if we maintain that approach. But in general, and sort of technically speaking, there's no limit on the compliance aspect. You can bolt Reddcoin into the same KYC and other kind of compliance-oriented activities that you could Bitcoin or almost any other token or coin. And I think from that extent, there are other projects that are much higher on the list of, let's say, potentially violating, various laws and guidance. For the most part, our blockchain is eminently trackable, and we've had some inquiries from, let's say, various police-oriented groups looking to learn more about that aspect of it. Don't think that's escaping anybody's notice. We are a global digital asset, much like Bitcoin. Even if we want to think we're just a little bunch of group of guys making software, we're not. This is evolving into something that's a bit bigger than here's a chat client to talk to, and we're trying to stay as aware of that as we can. Again, it's going to require some additional expertise on the team. That's a function of us growing and adding the right people, and adding the people with the right focus to address that stuff proactively and transparently. And that's really who Reddcoin is and what we intend to be.
And I guess the other part of that too is when it comes down to regulations, like from a blockchain point of view, it's hard for us to, what's the word I'm looking for? I guess we're the vehicle. We can't decide how a person is going from point A to point B. Back in the Wild West days of money laundering and drug trafficking and how those payments were set up. As a software, you can't control where those funds are coming to and going from. What a lot of government organizations are looking for when it comes down to regulatory compliance, etc., is being able to identify and link a person or an entity to those funds. So from a user point of view, I don't know Jay's address unless he gives me an address and says, here, John, can you send me some coins? I say, sure. He gives me an address. I don't know whether that's in his wallet or is he actually using somebody else's wallet, or is it something he's pulled out of the air to use. So from a blockchain point of view, general user point of view, linking a person to an address doesn't happen on the blockchain. What normally happens is a person is linked to an address outside of the blockchain, where you might post an address on a website saying send coins here, or I'll unlock your wallet because I hacked it. They'll send your coins to there, and you start linking up bits of information. The other part of compliance, when software is going through the blockchain and analyzing it, it is creating that flow. So looking at each address, mapping each address, and then working out how those coins got to the input and where do those coins go to, and do I know about that address somewhere else? And there are a couple of websites now, I think BitInfo Charts and starting to do that, trying to link up, common addresses, what addresses exist in a particular wallet, as those addresses been shared or reused. And back in the day, Bitcoin, in fact, they still do promote it. They don't reuse addresses. So every time you have a transaction, generate a new address, because once you start mixing addresses, that's when you start being able to say, oh, that person owns these addresses because they've sent coins that, to these various ones at different times. So it's kind of, sort of compliance is going to happen in a couple of layers. If you look at KYC, a blockchain point of view, probably will never happen because you never know who's going to download the software and fund that from somewhere, or it doesn't even need to download the software. If you're on an exchange, you could literally set up an account there. You never have to load a Reddcoin wallet. You just use the exchange for your funds, and you transfer out of there. When it comes down to compliance, it's actually working out who owns those addresses, and as people start to realize now, particularly with KYC, that information is being tracked at different levels. Exchanges need, in order to be able to exist nowadays, need to have some sort of level of KYC, and I'm sure those addresses are being sent back to the government coffers, regular updates. So if you're trading, whether you're sending coins to or from an exchange, that's going to be linked to whatever information has been entered in with that entity at that particular point in time. And most exchanges, most blockchains are, they are publicly readable. If you've got an Explorer, you can dig through that information. And there's a couple of blockchains that have privacy around them, and some of those got filtered out too. If I recall back, they basically had to shut down because they couldn't exist because the exchange wouldn't allow them to exist because they were privacy coined, and their transactions couldn't be traced.
Yep.
So, we're not at the end game yet. In fact, I just had a good mate of mine who's just got involved in cryptocurrency ask me pretty much that same question in a different sort of way regarding, if you put your retirement funds on exchange because you want to buy Bitcoin and you want to use that as your investment vehicle, does the government know about that? And I guess the short answer is, if you've had to fill in some details about yourself, your driver's license, your passport number, or whatever it is, to be able to get an account on that exchange, then yes, they'll know about you. So it's the days of acting anonymously are very much numbered now, and we get into a whole bunch of other philosophical stuff when you start talking about government, the government side of things and tracking your funds. Maybe that's a call for another day.
Yeah. One last question.
Sure.
After POSV 2 is established and you do have funds, are you planning to ask CFTC for an opinion on if we belong underneath them for regulations?
We've already got an opinion under the Howey test, which says that we are, as I said before, we are a utility token under current guidance.
Well,
sorry, go ahead.
I was going to say from an opinion from CFTC itself, because that's always good to be able to show prospect partners that we do belong underneath them, not the SEC and not FinCEN.
I would say some of that discussion is probably, that's an in-depth answer. The short answer is yes.
Okay, thank you.
We're doing, yeah, exactly. We're doing as best we can to follow that current guidance, and that stuff really has evolved, if not month by month and week by week over the last 6 months or a year, but it continues to, and especially right now with all of the transition in banking and all of the financial world sort of being in an uproar, that stuff is going to continue to evolve. But as best we can, we're keeping an eye on it as it relates to Reddcoin, certainly. Could we use some, additional expertise on that front? No doubt. That's not my expertise. It's certainly, something that's important to the project. And again, we're, as a group, John and I individually and as a team, are learning about this stuff day by day. The aspects we're not expert in, we kind of have to fill those roles. That's certainly one of the roles I've spent a lot of time trying to be informed about and intelligent about, and trying to, adhere to the appropriate guidance and anticipate some of the changes as they come. It's a good question. And it's something that, I've got some contacts here in the US pretty deeply into some of those folks, just by virtue of the circles that I'm connected to. And I'd like to think that we've got our eye on that ball for sure. Cool. Well, we are rapidly approaching the end of our scheduled session here, which I'm kind of shocked to see. But I was thinking at this point, if we finish with the questions, we could take a couple of minutes and do some quick giveaways to our, I guess, non-team members in the room, and consider this a successful first virtual meetup. Impressed we've managed to fill it with content and intelligence and good answers we can actually republish.
Yeah, it's really cool to be able to get members from our community to pop in, just say hello, get a chance to see us face to face, and be able to see you all face to face, and get your questions answered, and it's a really good way to interact with each other.
Yep.
Especially during the times that we're facing.
Yeah, especially as we're all trapped in our houses. All right, so I'll share our little screen here and our Wheel of Fortune, and we can do some giveaways. 1 second. Okay. So for our first giveaway, I think Andrew, as our first non-team forced to speak volunteer, and for asking some good questions there. If you could just say "stake on" to activate the wheel.
Stake on.
Wow, voice automation, Jay, I'm impressed.
And Andrew wins. Tim, if you wouldn't mind noting down the winners.
Yeah, I got them.
Andrew's going to win a Reddcoin flag. Yay! It's a flag with a Reddcoin on it, like this. Whee!
Oh, that's awesome. Love it.
Look, man, we're trying to do our best here. We do software, not public events, but okay. So okay,
Hey,
so
Reddcoin flag's a pretty cool thing, man. I'll be honest.
okay. Randy, I believe you're next up on the list there. If you wouldn't mind, just tell the machine to stake on.
Stake on.
Yeah, he's on to 5,000.
5,000
Sound effects.
coins.
They went on a bigger one.
And what's your Telegram, Randy?
FL Dammy.
That's right. And that was 5,000. Okay, Randy has been paid. You'll see that in the Telegram chat room, sent publicly for accountability. Okay, and who's next? Who's next? Do we have anybody else who volunteered? Andrew, Randy, Mr. Jalev. Would you like to step up and spin the wheel? Harmony Q. The man, the myth, the legend. He had ideas of us building a Reddcoin social network to get the word out. Great idea, a little bit of work involved there, but we need big thinkers. You with us? Yes, no, maybe?
You're on mute if you're trying to talk.
Okay, we will move right along and reward you differently another time. Okay, well,
Let's spin the wheel and see if we can get something for the people on Telegram. We can drop a few right for them. Nice little ring function. if it will land on one. I don't know if everyone's going to get a hat.
It's raining hats.
There you go. We're rating 500 for the community.
Okay. Rain. What was it, 500? Let's just say for the last 2.5 hours since we've been in here. I don't know if it takes decibels. I guess it does. Yay. Okay. 500 coins rained into the chat room.
Nice.
Another 5,000.
That's a nice one.
Should have joined.
And I guess Harmony said that the software is a little laggy, I guess, for him where he's at. So it's probably a little delayed.
No worries. I'll tell you what. If you wouldn't mind typing into the chat room there, stake on, I think that should activate the wheel. Yes, no, maybe. There we
Take on,
go.
look at
It is an amazing integration we've got there.
that.
5,000 red coin. Let's see. I would like anybody to point out another crypto that you can do this with. Okay, he's been paid. Let's see, do we have any boop, 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 boop?
Geez, you keep landing on that 500.
Yeah, I'm not sure who's doing that, but it's funny. All right. All right, well, if any of you other silent folks would like to take a spin on the wheel before we adjourn for our, I guess, to complete our first utterly successful meetup. Anybody wants to type in the chat there and participate? I see Donald Lorenzo, name I don't recognize, but that's fine, and some Ignacios, which is an odd default name to choose, but okay. No? Okay. Well,
That's all right. What I'll say is, Andrew, if you can shoot me a message privately, I'll just be able to send you a flag and, get you hooked up with that. All right, awesome. Thanks, man.
Yeah, we'll need visual evidence, Andrew. A flagpole at the front, photograph.
yep. All right. Well, I think then that we've come to the end of our adventure. Our first virtual meetup, I think, has been moderately successful, and no ugly pauses or terrible silences, and lots of good information. So, fantastic. Couldn't ask for better.
Yeah, thanks everybody for making some time to come join the gang. It's been great.
Yeah.
Thank you for holding it.
Yeah, thank you guys for attending.
Our pleasure. And just as a closing note to folks that might not have attended, maybe you'll attend the next one. They are free, so nothing out of pocket. Come and hang out with us and bring your questions. Really, we're not preparing answers here, so everything is, out of our heads and, excuse me.
It's all raw.
Off the cup, flying by the seat of our pants.
Exactly. And yeah, other than that, if you're a redhead and you're staking, make sure you're on the new version of the wallet and helping us get to POSV v2. We'll have some interesting stuff coming up in the near future. If you'd like to support the team and our work, we've got donation addresses on the event page on the website, www.redcoin.com. We also do want to point out there's a specific address there for donation to the Redcoin Food and Supply Bank. That is going to be a cornerstone of our initiatives moving forward to help out not just Redcoin Redhead community members, let's say, but whoever might be in need and deserving of that. Just as a little bit of helping protect and serve, if you'll forgive that, our community, our redheads, and the folks around us that are helping us build and doing all the right stuff. Again, if you've got a little bit you want to throw into those donations, will be well used, and we'll be reporting on how that stuff is used in the future. Other than that, feel free to reach out if you'd like to join the team at info@redcoin.com, or hit up one of our team members on chat. We're all friendly, we're all happy, nobody bites, and we're all looking for, you know, new friends to play with. And that's my spiel, John, if you wanted to wrap up from your side.
Yes, certainly. Thank you, everybody. It's been a great, it's been a slow evolution for us to get to this. We've done a few talking heads previously, but now having the public come and join us and have these discussions is great. It's educational, I think, both what directions. One, for us to know what people are thinking, and two, for us to give information out. So I love these to grow bigger and bigger. That's the technology has held up well, and like everything, I'd like to see this grow. And for those who are with us now or watch this later, certainly more than welcome to join, and invite your friends if you want to educate them a bit further about what we're on about and what we're trying to do and what we're trying to achieve.
Yep, awesome. And yeah, we plan to do these at least every month moving forward. So join the Meetup group and participate. And other than that, keep staking, keep following us, and we'll get there at some point.
Yes, and everybody stay safe, look after each other. It's crazy days at the moment, but I think a bit of community love is needed as well. So
absolutely. All right, awesome. Well, thanks very much, folks. And I guess that will bring us to an end. And have a wonderful night. We'll all meet up at our next meeting. Take care.
Sounds great.
Awesome, everyone.
Bye.